Hey everybody, welcome back to Next Play Records. I'm Andy, and I have a contest entry today, and this is for the fairly new VC channel called Bass to Bass with Lisa and Glen. Make sure you look them up. Their focus is on the bass. They both are bass players in their past and current, and I believe they both played in bands, and they still try to get better in their craft. But they like to talk about the bass in music, and I think that's a real overlooked instrument in a lot of ways. Ever since I've gotten into jazz, I mean, I really noticed that bass. They get their solos a lot in the hard bop era. People like Paul Chambers, who is probably my favorite bassist throughout that era that I love. So I've started to focus on the bass and even into other genres too as well. So, but for the contest today, we're supposed to pick one of their top bassists that they mentioned on their channel, and the one I've picked is the famous Kaye. And I didn't know a whole lot about her, and I especially didn't know all of the many great songs and albums that she worked on. She had been a session musician since 1957 and did it for years and years and years, and was one of the best. Played a ton with the Beach Boys, Sonny and Cher, all kinds of genres. And I've picked 3 songs and albums that she's played on that I'd like to talk about, and then show some albums in my collection that it reminded me of or made me pull. So one thing I want to make sure I mention is for their contest, they're giving away, I believe, 4 prizes. So, and I think it's on merit. So not necessarily random pulls for these wins. They'll look at your video and hope you did a good job. Hope it teach them something, show that you learned something. So I hope I do that today. The first thing I want to make sure I mention is that for these bassists, they listed about 3 or 4 other bassists. I just wanted to pick one that I knew had been around in multiple genres, not just rock, not just jazz. And Kaye seemed to be the one that was the most wide-ranged and influenced many types of music. So the first song I want to mention that I saw that she played on is Cannonball Adderley's Big Man, The Legend of John Henry. And it's a record I didn't know about until I researched Kaye, or a event. I mean, it sounds like I'm going to look more into it once I get done with this video, but it looks like it's a spoken word / Broadway type thing that Cannonball Adderley put together. And if y'all don't know who Cannonball Adderley is, he's a well-known jazz musician from the mid-50s and on. I have a few of his early Riverside records, but this album that Kaye played on is called Cannonball Adderley's Big Man, The Legend of John Henry. And it's got a gospel, soul funk spin to it, and it relates this man John Henry with a big ego to maybe representing God in certain situations. And I think throughout the album, I haven't listened to it in its entirety, but I think throughout the album he gets humbled and recognizes who God really is. And it reminded me of a Cannonball Adderley record that I have in my collection, and that is Cannonball Adderley's Soul of the Bible, which is it's narrated by Rick Holmes, and this is more of your post-bop, hard bop jazz on this one, but it's got the biblical references in it, obviously, just like Big Man does, that Kaye played on. And one riff that I noticed on Big Man was Kaye, she played, this is more of a soul funk record, Big Man, than my Soul of the Bible here. And Kaye played electric bass, very prominent on the piano solos. You could hear her doing some really quick riffs and awesome runs. But it reminded me of this album that I have that Cannonball Adderley did, more of your hard bop style, that has the narrator, just like the story of the John Henry on the Big Man. So I wanted to make sure I showed that. This is on Capitol. And yeah, so I was happy to get this gospel-influenced jazz record, Soul of the Bible, and happy that Kaye involvement in the Big Man helped me learn that there's another album out there that's similar to this from Cannonball Adderley. So that's number one. Number two, I found out that Kaye played on a version of a very popular song called Willow Weep for Me. And this was in the 70s also for a band called Chad and Jeremy. And Willow Weep for Me, as far as I knew, was a long time jazz standard done by Dizzy Gillespie. Many jazz artists put words to it as it progressed. And the version I have, which it reminded me of, was Ike Quebec. It might as well be Spring. This is a blue note. And Willow Weep for Me on here is completely different than the one Carol Kaye plays on, because Carol Kaye plays on one that's more of a up-tempo, a lot of double bass sounds to her playing on it. This is a very slowed down, intimate, romantic version of the song. And the bass on here picks up towards the end, but it's just a heavy, slow notes. And Carol Kaye on Willow Weep for Me with Chad and Jeremy is a lot more of a up-tempo and more exciting riffs on it. But for me, my style, I really like the older school jazz, so it just reminded me of this album I have of Ike Quebec on the blue note that has Willow Weep for Me's jazz standard on it. So that's number two. Number three, and this was the biggest shock. The reason I picked Carol Kaye is that she had done a good number of country albums and played bass on that. One being Glen Campbell. So she played bass on a few Glen Campbell songs. The two most prominent, and it's probably my two favorite Glen Campbell songs, is Wichita Lineman. She played the bass on that. And once I decided to do this video and I listened to the song again, it made me listen to her bass play on that song as much as his lyrics, which really get you when you first listen to this song. So Wichita Lineman, which is one of my favorites, and the other one that she plays on, Galveston. So there they are, back to back on this greatest hits, Wichita Lineman and Galveston, sorry. So this Glen Campbell record, obviously when I found out she played on that, it blew me away. So she's done everything from jazz to country, which are my two favorite genres. Tons of rock. Played with the Doors. Played with the Beach Boys, like I said. So this was a great contest for me, and I think it's good for everybody to go to Lisa and Glen's new YouTube channel. And it's not just focused on the bass. It is a VC channel, so you'll get a lot out of it. I don't think that they'll wear out the bass focus, although it's something that we all need to learn about. So hopefully this entry is acceptable. Thank you, Lisa and Glen, for an awesome contest. And until next time, keep spinning that next play.